I made some more progress on removing the wheelhouse. I drilled out the remaining spot welds. Here's the piece that was left of what was left of both halves, and that was up in here. You can kind of see where it was located, and I drilled out the spot welds and then removed the rest of it. I also cleaned up the pocket at the rocker panel and got rid of the rest of the metal that was in there. This was back here in this corner, and this was the other piece up front. Now that that's cleaned out, there was only one spot weld inside of here holding this inner rocker, or outer wheelhouse, I'm sorry. So whenever I go back, I'll have to tack it in. Also still clean up these little spot weld areas here, a little bit here. Wanted to show you what I've been using. Also, this is a just regular air drill, and this is one of those Unibits. And I actually picked this one up from Harbor Freight as a kit, and believe it or not, it's better than the other brand. Can't think of the name right now. Also, I use a 90 grinder with a real thin Ziz wheel to make my cuts. So, Irwin, that's the other name. But this is from Harbor Freight, has worked, I mean, better than anything I've had from them. So, anyway, I also want to show you, I made a homemade chisel just to separate seams. I don't even know what this was. It was just a random piece of steel that I sharpened up. Also, I went ahead and leveled up the car. It's on jack stands. I placed levels in different locations, and there's the bubble on the trunk area, and then I had a little bit of a variance on the back here because it's not supported, so I also leveled up the back end with the jack, and the rest of it's been all leveled up, so it's on the money right now. And my gaps are pretty good. I know in the other video I posted, I had mentioned a drop from the trunk up to that lip right there, and that's around 18 and 3/16. Come around the other side, and there it is, pretty much 18 and 3/16 on this side too. And I've also measured from here to the floor and from here to the floor to make sure everything was square. I did measurements on the from the rockers to the floor on both sides, crisscrossed the levels, made sure the thing was square, so that when I do start welding stuff in, everything will be straight and square and it'll look right going down the road. So that's where I'm at right now. I'll start fitting up the inner wheelhouse and probably the outer wheelhouse together, and then I'll show you how that goes. Okay, this is where we're at on the Mustang. I had started to put in the wheelhouses, and I'd used this black one here, which is the inner wheelhouse. Really nice stamping, fit really well. And I started trying to put in this outer wheelhouse. As it turns out, it's not a very good fit at all. It's actually about 1.5 inches longer than it needs to be, and both pieces were bought, you know, from Mustangs Unlimited, but they sell an assembly. So it's the two halves that are already together, already welded at the seam, and they fit much better, and it makes it easier as an assembly as well. So it fits in the pocket pretty good. I still have to make some adjustments. Right now I'm just mocking it up, but what I'm going to end up doing is taking the quarter panel, which is sitting on top of the car right now, and I'll clamp the inner wheelhouse or the wheelhouse assembly in place, and then I will mock up the quarter panel to make sure that everything fits properly, so that the quarter panel meets the outer wheelhouse at this lip in the right location. Once that I'm satisfied with all that, then I can weld in the wheelhouse assembly, and I can do final fitment on the quarter panel and get it in place as well. Now, some of the things I had to do to get to that point was break the old welds off of here, off the door jamb. I'll have to open this up a little more on this roof line, and then clean up these areas here where the seams were from the previous quarter panel replacement, and make some holes here so that the quarter panel, when it fits underneath, you can kind of see there's some pieces left in the welds. Sorry. It'll fit underneath of this, butt against this up here on this filler panel, and the quarter panel should actually go up underneath the roof line, but I've done it before and it's almost impossible to do it and make it look good, so I'll probably end up splitting this line right across here and mocking up the quarter and then welding that together. So hopefully everything goes smooth, and I have at least these pieces on today. I've done a little more cleanup on the quarter panel attachment areas, like here on the filler panel in the corner of the trunk. And what I found up here kind of surprised me a little bit, but not too much. This is where they had welded in the previous quarter panel, and they really didn't do that great a job. I mean, it's solid, the piece isn't going anywhere, but you can see all the dips and nooks and everything that they left behind. I think the problem was, and it's really kind of hard to see, but they left the lead in here. I mean, you can't do that. So they probably welded this area here and had trouble making good welds because of the lead contamination. So what I'm going to do is burn out that lead like I did on the Camaro project, and clean that up so that I can separate this piece out and have a much better surface to weld to when I put the new quarter in. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to heat this up, melt this lead out of here. You can already see it, there it goes. Doesn't take much. We've got to get it out so that it doesn't contaminate the welds. And there's probably a good bit of lead in this car. I stress you wear safety glasses and gloves at the least. And if you have a little bit of airflow, it'd be nice so you don't breathe the fumes from this. You can see how high up that lead is. Way up here in the quarter. They weren't shy about using it. You just see it running out. And like I said before, you know, if you can save this lead, you can probably give it to a race buddy or something who wants to make lead weights for his like a stock car. Comes in pretty handy for that. I used to melt down wheel weights from tire stores so that I could make my weights. I have a couple big, heavy weights that I made for my stock car. Of course, I don't need them anymore, so I could probably pass those on to somebody else. But you can see what I'm getting at here as far as cleaning this up. All right. And then I'll come back with a wire brush and clean out the rest of this. You can see a little bit of how even the metal that was there. See where I showed you the welds? That actually separated just from the heat. So that tells you the weld really wasn't doing its job. You get behind there and you can see you can see the gap right there. So I'll get the rest of this out, and there you can see all my lead decoration on the wheelhouse. And of course, none of that sticks. It's not a bonding agent, so it doesn't even hurt to paint, which is kind of cool. Look, I made art. Anyway, there you go. Well, here's the latest on the Mustang. I been cleaning up where the quarter panel goes. Did some fitment on it. I got the door that I'm going to use, and I'm just getting ready tonight to weld in this this wheelhouse. So I'm going to get that welded in, and then probably I'm going to finish cutting off that other quarter panel so that when I start making placements, I can do alignment on the tail panel and the deck lid. And there's my last check, level bubble on all 3 locations, so everything's good to go. Okay, so the wheelhouse assembly is in. Got all the welds in place here. Turned out pretty good. Fits pretty well down here where it meets the rocker panel. Hard to see without much light, but all those welds are in place. And then where it meets the drop off for the trunk, got that in nice. So now, like I was saying before, I'm going to fit the quarter panel up here. And before, I run into this on other cars, other Mustangs, where when you fit the quarter panel, if you do one side at a time and you're doing the whole assembly in the back, the tail panel and everything, you are setting yourself up for a failure. What I'm going to do is I will mock up the quarter panel on this right side, have it in place, and I'm also going to take and cut off completely what's left of this left quarter panel, and I will mock it up as well, because I ran into an issue one time with a 65 Mustang that the quarter panel on the left side was about a 1/4 inch longer than the right side. Well, it doesn't sound like much until you put the tail panel in place, and then you set the deck lid up here, and the deck lid hangs short of the quarter panel. Now what do? You can't stretch the deck lid. I actually cut a slice out of the quarter panel, a pie cut, I shouldn't say pie cut, a slice out about a 1/4 inch, and I shortened it so that the tail panel fit square and the deck lid fit square. All these things have to line up, so that's why you never weld anything, like the wheelhouse I can weld solid, but the quarter panels and the tail panel, everything's got to fit just right before I weld it in place. So that'll be the next step.